Hey, what's up, Entourage? You are on with Jan. Hey, what's up, Entourage? Welcome back to our next episode. Today is a very special episode because I get to do it with my best friend.
Hi, Yana.
Hi, Emilia. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. And by the way, everybody, this is Dr. Emilia Szerenos. But for the remainder of the podcast, I might call her just Emmy. So if you know, you know. Otherwise, Dr. Emilia Szerenos, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Yana, so much. But I feel like doctor is a bit much right now. I really don't feel like one yet. I just recently graduated and yeah, just getting there.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get into how you feel all about that.
You're too kind.
So, Emmy, just go into a little bit about how we know each other, how long we've known each other, and how we got to where we are.
Oof. I don't know if this podcast has enough time for that. But yeah, I guess the short version is what? You moved to Michigan a few years back. And
yeah, I was about 10.
Yeah, so I guess
when we met.
That's like almost 18 years ago. Wow. So backtracking. So yeah, that was 18 years ago, and right, you moved here with your family, and I think your dad and my grandma met on the street speaking similar languages, and
Yep.
like you would come over, we'd hang out, and we just became friends. It was very pure, I would say.
Yeah. Well, just to paint the picture for everybody else, when my family and I came here, we were about 2 houses apart, right?
Yeah,
2 houses apart.
Same street, yeah.
Same street, 2 houses apart, and I spent a lot of time outside, and my dad, who didn't speak very good English, bless his heart, met Babcia, that's Emmy's grandma,
Yeah,
and it's been a wild ride since then. But just as we've known each other for 18 years, I just want to point out that you are my one non-karate, non-martial arts friend that I have, that I cherish and I value, because I think you bring so much to our friendship, and I hope I can do the same. But growing up with you, basically, and seeing you grow from when we were kids and I was 10, and when I was 10, you would have been how old?
8, yeah. We
Okay,
have 2
yeah.
years apart, and back then that age difference is a bit more important. Like,
Yeah.
you see it more. So I remember always looking up to you and having like this cool older friend I could hang out with, and
I think it's pretty cool that thank you. Thank you. First, thank you. But second, I think it was super cool, and it has been super cool to watch you transform from when we were kids into your young adulthood, and now into an MD, okay? And I know you mentioned, like, it doesn't feel like it right now, so let's talk a little bit about that. Like, why don't you think it feels like that?
Well, I feel like if you call somebody a doctor, MD, they have a sense. I feel like it's mostly you feel like they have experience, and as much as I have a certain level of experience, I don't have enough to be to feel like I am a doctor. I am an MD. It comes with time. It comes with training, and as of right now, I've only had classes and a lot of theoretical stuff, which is very important, but from what I see from my rotations, learning things from a book and seeing it on pictures does not necessarily mean you can recognize it in person. So I feel with becoming a doctor, it's not until you gain that level of experience after residency, after fellowships, after being in your own practice or hospital, wherever you end up working, it's maybe in 10 years I'd feel confident enough to call myself a doctor.
Wow. So many years put in already, and so much time to still go.
Yeah, it's been 7 years, and I don't know where that flew by when.
Yeah, that went by very quickly. But it's really cool. And just to move backwards a little bit, I mean, when you and I met, I can't remember what year, but I was 10, you were 8. And then you moved to Poland.
Yep, that's true.
How long did you move to Poland?
We left in 2008, and then I came back in 2013. So it was 5 years that I spent living in Warsaw, in Poland.
In those 5 years, Emmy and I remained in contact, talked. It was one of those friends where you don't have to see them every single day.
Yeah, that's true. Now that I think about it, I remember I think we even went through a phase where maybe we didn't talk to each other for 6 months, 8 months. And then I do remember this vividly. I was sick on New Year's Eve, and I texted you like Happy New Year's, and then we started talking every single day after that, after having like a 6 or 8 month period of not speaking. And it was completely normal.
Yeah, and it went back like didn't even skip a beat. Didn't even.
And even back then, it was a bit trickier because we didn't have access to such electronics as we do now.
That's a very good
point. We had to send Skype,
yeah.
And we had we had an option to text each other through Yahoo.
Oh,
I don't remember how that worked now.
I don't, that's a very good point. We had obstacles.
We had emails.
We had obstacles. No, but it's just really cool to have one of those friendships where you don't have to communicate every single day and you can pick back up right where you left off. No drama, no problems.
Yeah, nothing.
Like, we've never had one of these, like, situations where, like, you said this or I said this or you did this to me.
Yeah, we never actually argued. Like,
no.
Yeah, like...
It just seems like a very...
It's just
healthy.
Chill. Yeah, very healthy. That's
very
a
healthy.
Good that's a good way of putting it. A very healthy relationship.
Yeah, and I just love that. I cherish it so much because I see so many other people around me that don't have that or can't maintain that, and I'm just really fortunate to have that with you. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think the fact that we did grow up and have our relationship in like long distance wise through these means of you actually having to take the time to write up this email and think about the most important things to write, or these postcards or letters that we wrote to each other. You really just try to condense the most important things that you want to address with the person, and you don't get caught up in those minimalistic issues that maybe a lot of people do end up arguing about or having tension and whatnot.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, so I'm very happy about that, and that's such a good point you make. Like, we went through periods of long periods of time of not communicating, but then when we did communicate, it was about like all the important things that have happened in our lives. And you would travel when you were there, and you'd send me postcards and things like that, and those just meant so much because, like, honestly, who does that? And I don't mean it in that way, but like.
Yeah, because now you could just hit up a text, greetings from blah, 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 and or send we just post a picture on Instagram or something and tell everybody, hey, and postcards, or picking out that postcard that other person would like or could find funny. It adds a little bit more value to it.
Absolutely. So you left for 5 years. You came back. It was 2013. You came back. Mm-hmm. I was out of high school, and you were...
Oh, wow, you were.
And you were going in?
Sophomore year,
You were sophomore.
Yeah.
And you came back. You went through high school.
Yes.
You went to that IA. Shout out.
And I also had to... Like, my parents held me back 1 year because of the transition from Poland to...
The palm of humility from mom and dad.
Yeah, because I was supposed to go into my junior year, and my mom didn't feel like I would do well enough to take the SATs and ACTs and all the IB stuff that came with the IA, so she held me back. But it didn't make a difference in the end,
She held you back,
actually.
so you were propelled forward. But
yeah.
that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
No, but so then you graduated.
2016, yep.
And then you went off to med school.
Yeah.
Back to Poland she went.
Yeah, I couldn't see myself in any other place, actually, when it came to that. It was just, at the time, Poland had a very special place in my heart. I mean, it still does, but back then I was still pretty young, and there's a lot more freedom there when it comes to student life, and I felt at the time that was a big priority for myself. And to go back with my family, because a lot of them still stayed there, like my sister, right? So it meant a lot back then.
So for everybody listening, just to recap a little bit, Emmy spent a lot of time here, a lot of time there, a lot of time here, a lot of time there, which really generates a really cool perspective on life. Because not a lot of people get to equally, if you count it out in years' time now, equally spend in one country and then a different country that's completely
this
different.
year it comes out even 13 years, like to the point.
Wow.
And I didn't realize this till like a month or two ago when I was talking to a friend that had a similar question to me of where do you feel more at home, and I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, it comes out even.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So let me ask you then. It comes out even. Which one would you choose?
Oh, it's too hard, Yana. That's too hard. Both have such assets to them, and but at this point in my life, when I think about my career, and especially in medicine, I feel like the States is definitely the way to go. I have a great residency training program. It's valued all over the world, and I feel like you have so many more opportunities here when it comes to the medical field, so many more research opportunities, so many more equipment that people use. It's very high end and up to date. And in Poland, there are a lot of hospitals too that are quite new, and you can't say anything really bad about their technology. But still, in the States, there's more.
Yeah,
to not hide it. Like there is more, and
do you think more opportunity as well?
Yes, there's more. Okay, if we think about it this way, in the US there are way more programs, a lot more hospitals, in a lot more different regions and different demographic areas. The US is a huge country.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more to choose from versus Poland, which is a bit smaller and has maybe a handful of these new hospitals and limited positions.
Okay.
So it would be much harder to get the same type of experience, I would say, but in the States it's also much harder to get in.
Yeah.
So it's
and we'll get back into that.
A little bit there. I don't know if this makes total sense though.
Okay, yeah,
what I'm saying.
It does make a lot of sense. Then let me ask you this. Having lived and experienced two types of different cultures equally, what are some of the things that you notice the States versus Europe and Poland? Because I know you've also traveled a lot.
Oh yeah.
Like, let's just off the top of your head, while you're in Poland, how many countries have you been to?
At least 10.
Minimum, right? Minimum. So with that perspective and having equally lived here as well as there, what are some of the things that you notice? I'd love to hear.
Just people, or like just culture-wise? Like
people, culture-wise, what you think, good, bad, like what do you think?
I mean, that's the thing, like in Europe, every country, okay, so the US is a huge country with many different states, and Europe is basically, if you think about it, just like it's big, but you have so many different tiny countries where you just cross the border from one and you're in a whole different environment, which I feel in the States you don't really have, because if you go from Michigan to Ohio, you have the same stores. You have everything. But if you cross the border from Poland to Germany, you have the West influence so much more versus in
And we got to do that. About a year ago.
That's true.
We got to do that about a year ago.
Which is also, you can still, as much as Europe has now greatly evolved in the last 20 years, let's say, more actually, but they evolved so much but you can still see where the Iron Curtain was. Mm-hmm. So coming from Poland, who has greatly expedited its whole evolution as a country, if you hop the border, just one border, you can see that they already had basically everything.
Right.
So that's something, but also then you hop the border from Germany to Denmark, let's say, or to Holland, and that's a whole different scene too. And then to Norway, which completely different, and the lifestyle and everything. So being able to just quickly see how different cultures were able to have their day-to-day, even because when I would travel, I really didn't want to go to touristy places.
Right. Yeah.
I would go visit friends and just see the difference between how, let's say, my friends in Germany, their life really didn't change too much in comparison. It doesn't look any different, let's say, to the US. But if I go up to Norway, they, fish and eat their own fish.
Yeah.
They go hiking whenever they can. Like, even after work, my friends said that they'd come off after a shift, but the sun doesn't go down in the summer, so after 11 p.m. they'll still go for a hike.
Different lifestyle.
Yeah, it's completely different. But in the States, you don't have that unless you really try to go. I don't know if California's too different than Michigan. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's different. It's different, but it's
different. It's more high end, right?
It's not different where, like you said, it's not going from Poland to Norway.
Yeah.
Different,
Yeah, because in the States, when we would travel, we'd go to all the national parks and stuff. So I wouldn't really get the sense of the people in the cities, and plus I was much younger, so I am just most familiar with the Midwest and East Coast.
The best in the Midwest. So then what would you say would be one of the biggest perspective things that you've learned if you had to reflect on, having that?
Oh, I think a good one. Yeah. I feel like I didn't mention this before, but thank you for turning it around again. Yeah. I think the biggest eye-opener, let's say, is the fact that in Europe you see a lot more people and you are exposed to a lot more different classes, let's say. Mm-hmm. Here in Michigan, I feel like growing up, you go from your home to your car to school.
Yeah.
To your car again, to the store, and you don't really walk around, you don't really see that many people. Yeah. And in Europe, you're walking down the street and you can see someone dressed super nice, fancy, going to their job, and then you can see someone barely, making it on the other side of the street. And it's not necessarily due to like the issues, I guess, that we have in the States now with the drugs and everything. It's just there's a lot more homeless people there in Europe that you actually get exposed to and see as a kid. Because here, if you're not going with your family, let's say to New York or to LA or some place where it's
prevalent, yeah,
it's more prevalent, you just see it on the TV, it's there.
So that's a really great point. What do you think that teaches you?
I think, I remember myself. I remember living, right in Warsaw, and we would go to church every day because we're very Catholic, right? Yeah. And just seeing these families asking for money every Sunday at every church. And I just remember as a kid thinking, oh wow, like I just got these new pair of shoes, like I should have maybe got the cheaper ones and given it to, this little boy or something. And it starts like you start thinking about what the value of certain things is. Versus here, like as a kid, because this was when I was 11, and even 1 year before that when I was still in the States at age 10.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. Like we would go to the store, my mom would buy me new gym shoes for school. Or we went to private Catholic school. I didn't think about how much the uniform cost
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. And then you go to like in my case, like Poland, and you're walking down the street as it's like a 11-year-old, and you see these things, and you start thinking like, okay, you have it better than some people. So maybe next time if you want to get the 2 pairs and your mom says no, maybe don't throw a fit.
Mm.
These types of things.
Yeah, so it expands your worldview, but helps you, I guess, realize that it's not just you and about
And
what you want and care about.
Yeah, and even maybe not to that extreme of seeing these people begging for money under the church, but I went to public school in Europe is very common. Like it's a good education system. Very rarely do people go private, and just even being exposed to my peers and having seen the difference between what I had in my pencil case and what the other person had in theirs, it also kind of puts a perspective on things that not everybody has it as well as certain people.
That was heavy. That was real heavy. No, but certainly that's definitely something that I think unless you're a kid growing up with it, you don't really care to think about those things.
No, even an example of one of my really close friends from Warsaw. He has a brother that's very disabled, and he had just a single mom was taking care of him and the brother. And even though my friend was, let's say, 13, 14 at the time, if his mom had to go to work, he had to stay and take care of his brother.
Yeah.
And I remember we also as friends would help him out. We'd go over whenever it would be too overwhelming for him, and that's also something that, and it was easy for us to go to his house. We could just walk there versus asking parents to drive, and it's another experience.
That I think is a big one. Like you said, in Europe, everything's so close and everybody is so much more mingled or intermingled with one another because of how close everything is, all the hangout spots, all the houses. Whereas here, you have to ask for permission. So even if you wanted to do something nice like this, it's not an easy thing for you to do. There's so many other variables, like is mom going to drive me?
Yeah, exactly.
Is mom going to be home? Is there a car I can take if I'm old enough?
And that was a big factor why I wanted to go back to Poland for university. I wanted to be independent as much as I could, and here I would have to keep the car that my parents would allow me to use, and I would always think it's not mine, it's theirs. And then there it's if I want to, I take the bus.
So just the independence part I think is a huge thing, because, and I want to touch on this in a little bit about like you going to school and having all of this drive and independence to be able to do that. But I think it does come from you going back to Poland and going through all of that. And I think mine maybe comes from because of my parents and then the martial arts. And the foreign upbringing, I think, helps with that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's so much value to what you just said about here, it's very reliant on everybody around you for you to be able to do what you want to do.
With everything.
Literally everything. If you want to go to your friend's house.
Like, even what my dad mentioned before we set everything up, just the fact that you have to rely also on your parents to continue your education.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with university, and in America, it's known everywhere in the world that it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So even going back to Europe and spending less on my tuition, I felt I had a bit more of control, that I was being a bit more also thoughtful and, let's say, independent in this case. But of course, not everybody has that opportunity, and just, yeah, having to pay so much for university, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Where for a lot of people in Europe, it is for free. Don't get me wrong, it is. I just studied in English, so I had to pay. But yeah, so in the States, you have to rely on so many people for a lot of different things, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, and I think that really teaches the opposite of independence and drive and motivation, because people then are like, well, I can't do it without anybody else. Or I can't do it for myself because, well, this didn't help, or this didn't work out, or this didn't, work with me, so then I can't do it.
Yeah, and even going through this residency process, they advocate so much from very early in the beginning, when I was just getting interested in coming back for residency, networking. And that's a huge thing of also going back, connecting with, you have to rely on other people in a way, because you want to connect with this person who could possibly connect you with this person who could possibly connect you with this person. And as much as it is also prevalent in other parts of the world like Europe, I feel it's not as strongly enforced as it is here when it comes to something as networking.
I feel like most people are like, it's about who you know, not what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure it's even worse or better, however you want to put the perspective on that, for you in the whole residency program, and going through all of that, and trying to meet people and trying to connect with all these things and people, and trying to make it.
Oh yeah, I feel like networking is one of the hardest things for me to do. It's just so, it's so foreign to me in a way. So
it feels funny.
It really does. Like, at least in my experience when I was studying, everybody, is kind of in the thoughts of, yeah, so I graduate and I'll apply to this hospital and I'll, go for an interview and I'll see if they like me and I'll get in. Or I've been working last summer in this place, so I'll reach out to them and see if they'll take me for residency or something like this. Versus for me, who barely any context here, having to email people at random asking if they have any advice or if they could take me here or if I could, do some research here or there, and I'm a complete stranger to them. So for me, it was very difficult to try to be concise and quick with, like, hey, I'm a good student, I'm very interested, please take me.
Can you take me?
I'm nice. Versus other people back, which I guess would also be maybe similar if I studied here. I guess my university would have...
You would have the connections
then, with the hospitals and classes. Yeah. So I guess maybe that's why I feel it's foreign to me. Because in Poland, like, also if I just stayed there and went to my university, it'd be different. It'd be more chill.
Yeah, probably you're right. But let's talk about that piece a little bit. So you graduated in Poland, and now, so you have to go through all these hoops and tests and exams and...
The trauma begins.
Yeah, you have to go through all of that and, like, prove yourself consistently that you can be an MD, and you can,
so
like, you...
But definitely worth it at the end, 100%.
I hear it in your voice. But then you have to come here, and it's like you start from scratch, basically. Like, because you said nobody knows you here as a med student. You don't have those same connections, and it's like a beginning.
Yep, 100%.
So,
with a beginning that you have to start with taking a very, very hard exam before anybody would talk to you. Before anyone will ever think, like, oh, okay, maybe she can come and observe for a bit.
So, mentally, talk about mentally how you feel about that. Like, you have all the reason to be like, I'm not doing that. Like, I did all this work and now I have to start all over? Like, what's getting you through that?
Well, for me personally, ever since I started university, I was always thinking about coming back, and I think it was I was very lucky to have the group of friends that I had or still have in university, because there were a lot of motivated students who also thought, okay, I came to Poland like to study, but my end goal is the States. And all of us, for the most part, had the same thought of, yes, we can't really afford studying medicine in the US, so we have to resort to another possibility. But we know that we want to come back, because this opportunity doesn't happen to everybody, and us having a US citizenship, for the most part, because there have been some people who've done it without, it would be an opportunity that would have just slipped through your fingers if you didn't put in the time to do it. And it does make it so much easier when you have this citizenship to work. You don't have to worry about the visas or anything. You just in comparison to the people that want to do it that don't have a citizenship, we just have to take exams. We just have to take these exams, pass them, do some rotation. It sounds so much easier than someone, which there have been situations that I've heard of, that would do everything, get accepted, and their visa gets rejected.
Oh.
So if you kind of look at like another person's perspective on this, it would be so easy for us to just try, at least,
And here we come back again, and it's all because she saw the homeless people outside of the church. Yeah, but I mean, I made that into a joke, but really it's not a joke.
No.
Like, you just talked about shifting perspective to get to your goal.
Yeah, I feel like I never really thought about that until now that you were bringing this stuff up. Is I'm constantly thinking about, okay, this is my perspective, but then let's look at it through this person's or that one, and think, okay, let's be reasonable. Like, how bad is it really?
That's so valuable, because I don't think you realize how valuable that is to what you do and to your accomplishments, because people have a hard time looking at other people's perspectives.
Oh yeah, that's why people argue a lot.
Yeah. And myself include, like with Ryan, for example, like I've had a hard time looking at a different perspective with a lot of things. And I think the way that you just phrased it is you have to look at different people's perspectives, but you do it in a way to motivate yourself. Whereas some people might look at it and be like, well, that's the reason why I feel the way I feel.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like,
yeah.
That's super cool.
Like, even something as simple as, yes, English is one of my native languages, and me studying for this exam, like the USMLE, in my native language, so much easier than for some people who are doing it in not their native language.
Yeah.
So,
also a good point.
Also, me having the citizenship, me having English as a native language, it would just, in my opinion, be a little bit of a waste of an opportunity, where other people study in a completely different language, and then they have to learn all of this in English, and then they might not be fortunate enough to also have parents that, are working in the States, making money in dollars to pay for this stuff. If you look at other currencies now, you have to triple times it or 4 times, So all of this, really, if you kind of look at it, it's not as bad as for some people.
But for everybody listening, and myself included, because I'm listening, what can you shift your perspective on so that way you can achieve your goal? Because for Emmy, it's, getting her MD and going through all the hoops and maintaining momentum as she goes through that. But consistently, you've maintained shifting that perspective so that way you can look at it and say, okay, well, it's not that bad for me. I can do it. Like, get up, let's go. And maintaining that, like, let's get up, let's go thought process, I think, is really valuable. And I think we could all do it with any goal that we might have. I know I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, and again, like, even in my case, when it came to time to study for one of these exams, or like the first exam, which people say is the hardest, but all of them are hard.
Wait, let me pause you just for a second. How long was that one exam you told me about when we were in Germany?
Well, it was like they're both almost similar. So they're called the USMLE for the people that are listening. It's a U.S. medical licensing exam, and the first one is about 8 hours long, and the second one is about 9 hours long. And then there's a third part, but that most people take after their first year of residency, but I'm planning to take it before, is 2 days.
Wow.
Not two full days, but 8 hours, 9 hours, and then 5 hours or something on another day.
Wow. But continue about that other exam. I just wanted to point out
that also in my case, they recommend to take these exams after a certain period of time at university when you cover all the basic basic subjects that are required for that first exam. And when I started thinking about studying for it, the pandemic happened. And I was super overwhelmed when it came to the thought of studying for this exam. I felt I could not do it. I felt it was far out of my league. But then the pandemic happened, and I thought, well, there's nothing else to do. I have to take this opportunity. I already started a little bit. I have to.
The perspective. I have to take this opportunity. Continue. Sorry, I just had to point out that gold.
Yeah, and that no one could go anywhere. Nobody. Well, I mean, people could go if they wanted to, of course. Well, let's not get political here, but basically, everybody was in lockdown. People were scared. Nothing was going on. Even the simple thought of, okay, so I'm going to study for this for the next 5 to 6 months, and I won't actually feel jealous of anybody because we're all going to be sitting at home anyways. So even the thought of going on Instagram or any type of social media to relieve, to kind of get away from things at the end of the day, I didn't have this feeling of,
I missed out.
I wish I didn't have to study. I wish I could go do that, or because nobody was going anywhere.
But the point being how those simple things, the hangouts with friends, the parties, I gotta go do this with so-and-so, I don't want to miss out on that event, get in the way of what you need to do for your goals, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. A lot of people struggle with, maintaining that. And even myself had the struggle the year after that when I was studying for the second exam. It was the summer when I started studying for it. It was nice weather. And, you know that the next day it's going to be raining, so maybe today I'll go to the lake and enjoy the weather, because tomorrow I'll have to be studying, and then tomorrow's a nice day, and they forecast it for the next day. So with my second exam, yes, I had to postpone it a little bit more because it was hard.
Yeah, but
after spending the entire 9-10 months of university and then taking the summer to still study and not be able to relax.
It's hard.
It's hard.
And I don't have the perspective that you have or the experience you have when you say that that's hard, but just hearing you verbalize like all the studying, all the hours of exams, and you have to study in the summertime, And I've never been one of those people that has to go out. I've never been one of those people that like, I gotta go to this party or I gotta do this. And the older I get, I hate saying that. The older I get, the less interested I am in like, I have to go out and, drink with my friends, or I've never been that type of person.
Yeah.
Ever. So for me, like hearing that perspective is really valuable because it's important to recognize a lot of other people have that hurdle to go through or obstacle to get through. Like, of course you want to go have fun with your friends, but like at a certain point you have to say, okay, well, now I got to study for this.
Yeah,
for real.
And with my second exam, like I said, it was tricky for me to prioritize during the summer. It's just a consecutive, like, very long time of studying and a lot of ups and downs. One day your practice test goes great. Next day you're thinking, why are you even trying? But then that pushed me into having to study during my first semester of my final year. And that had me waking up every day at 4 a.m. to get questions in before class. And then going to the library when none of my friends were really going to the library because it wasn't study time yet to finish everything, and then go home and review. And
hey, I think this is why you're my best friend. Because that drive is on 100, baby.
Yeah, oh, that time, yes, I have flashbacks now thinking about it. But then you have to, when you fall into this, you have to discipline yourself in order to make up the schedule, keep telling yourself you have to do it, but that there is the light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. So you have to set yourself these marks of, okay, I want to be done with this by this time, because if I don't, I'm not going to finish it because it's going to be never ending. Mm-hmm. So you start making these marks for yourself, and then you have to be disciplined. And at the end, like, you do have to say, oh, I can't go out today, I'm sorry, or I'll catch you in a month. You know, if you kind of phrase, I remember myself like that around Christmas time, telling my friends, yeah, I can't hang out with you now, but I'll catch you in the new year, 100%. So that was kind of tricky, but.
Which is funny that you even, like, have to go through that since you guys are all in med school. So you'd think that you guys are, like, kind of on the same schedule, right? Like,
but this everything that we're doing for the U.S. residency is all up to your own choice if you want to do it or not. Because like me studying right abroad in Poland in an English division part of the university, we had students from everywhere: Norway, Germany, Sweden, everywhere. And for them, they don't have to do this. They just have to go back home, and they have their own schedule, exams and whatnot that they have to do. But usually that takes part after university, versus for us that want to go to the States, it's all personal. Whenever you feel ready, you study, you take it, and there's basically 3 exams that you have to plan out to do.
Yeah, and that freedom really showcases your lack of discipline, right? Or for some people, right? Like their lack of discipline or their discipline.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that would wait till the end of their studies to start studying for these exams. But I feel like that would be even trickier because you're done. Mm-hmm. You graduated, you're done. And so that was also something that kept me very motivated to just have everything done by the time I'm graduated so I can just breathe. But then there's the 3rd exam that you don't have to take, but I think I'll take it just to, you know, have it as like a bonus, you know. It never ends, but...
And that's a wrap for part number 1 of this very special episode. Part number 2 is on the way. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. I appreciate all of your time and all of your support. Peace out, Yantaraj.